Before we get to our next guest, I would just like to remind people you're listening to News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. And I was just joking with my previous guests as they were leaving about the fact that I'm getting older and I may have a need for the program that they represent. But as you grow older, you also think about what you're going to do when you're no longer working. And I'd like to mention my friends at Waddell and Reed in Twin Falls, an investment firm that's been around since 1937, one of the oldest firms to offer mutual funds, and in fact, Waddell and Reed offers two mutual fund families. These are people, obviously, after 8 decades, you can say, must know what they're doing. And what they do is they help you at Waddell and Reed to build proper expectations, and they'll build a plan around your needs and your goals. Waddell and Reed helps people manage money, and at Waddell and Reed, they take planning personally. Joining us this morning, State Representative Christy Zito. She represents, of course, Elmore, Owyhee, and portions of Twin Falls County. First of all, welcome back to our program this morning.
Good morning, Bill, and thank you. It's good to be back.
I've been trying my best to track some of these bills that have been proposed that are making their way, winding their way through the House over the last several weeks. And I do know the one that you'd proposed, which was the Castle Doctrine, was getting a lot of attention. And I've been reading. It's not just you. I've been reading a lot of chatter about it on Facebook. Uh, whatever became of that? Is it still viable, or is it going to have to wait for another round, maybe another year?
Well, I'm going to go ask Chairman Lurcher for a hearing again today. I spoke with him Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was, and he said that, which we get, there's another Castle Doctrine bill going to make its way, and this time it was going to originate in the Senate. And he said that I should go speak with the sponsor of that bill because the chairman felt like that, I should know what it was. And I was really surprised to find out that it's our own Senator Brackett who is going to run a Castle Doctrine bill. So I went over to speak with Senator Brackett about that. And, you know, I was very respectful because that's how we should be. And I asked him about the bill, and he said he was really vague. It wasn't quite ready yet. And I said, well, is it a draft or is it an RS? Well, I can't really say that. So I know that our bill is ready to go whenever it's, you know, given a hearing, and I have no idea what the status of whatever it is Senator Brackett has, because, he wouldn't indicate that. A couple of things about the Castle Doctrine bill that I would like to clear up is Mr. Loeb's indicated that the Castle Doctrine bill that we have would allow it so that if someone broke into your house and stole your television, 2 weeks later you could go hunt them down and shoot them. That is absolutely ludicrous and completely not true. As far as a prosecuting attorney having never looked at it, Alexandria Kincaid is a former prosecuting attorney, a former defense attorney. She has tried hundreds of gun cases, and she specializes in setting up wills and trusts and such for gun owners so that they stay out of litigation and are safe legally when they pass their guns on to their family members. So, that's kind of the status of it now. If we don't get a hearing for it this year, we'll work on it again next year.
Is there you mentioned Senator Brackett that was at least working on something. Would there be an opportunity for reconciliation between these two bills if indeed he comes up with something more concrete?
Well, I'm willing to work with anyone on it, like I've told you before. And if no one wants to work with me on it, that's okay too, because I'm not here to have my name on the bill or say I passed Castle Doctrine. I just know that it's what the people of the state want. People in our district have spoken loudly about it. And I was just honored that I was asked to carry the bill. As far as, having to own it or claim it or anything like that, no. There are things that we would really like to see in it. And again, I'll refer back to Alexandria. We are blessed, I feel, in this state to have one of the foremost Second Amendment attorneys in the country in our state. And I would like to see, her have input to it and make sure that it offers the protections that we're looking for the citizens of our state.
I've got a couple of minutes before my commercial break. There was a big vote yesterday in the House when it dealt with the fee increase for Idaho Fish and Game. Um, I've only been able to get a list of the votes from the northern districts from the spokesman review this morning, but curious to know how you voted on that yesterday.
Well, and I appreciate that, Bill. I voted against it, and let me explain why. I know that the Farm Bureau and the Cattlemen's Association were in favor of it, and I appreciate why they were. And yes, something needs to be done about the depredation. The reason I voted against it was I knew it would have enough votes to pass, but I feel like that our fish and game needs to be on notice. And on the floor, I was really felt honored yesterday because I was able to read an email, actually two emails from a constituent in my district, and I was so thrilled to be able to actually read the voice of a constituent who expresses real concerns about the way the Fish and Game is managing things and the way things are happening in that agency. And so, though I voted against it, it was I I felt like my vote was just saying, we're watching, and Fish and Game is on notice that they really need to do a better job of what they're doing. And that's not my opinion. That is the opinion of people in my district, and that's what I'm here to represent is their voice. And so when I started to get emails and phone calls about it, um, I appreciate Farm Bureau and I appreciate the Cattlemen's Association, but I just felt like that that voice had to be made that, you're on notice, people are watching, you need to get things in order and take care of business a little bit better there.
Well, I got a question for you because we're at a hard break here, but do you have a few more minutes? Could you wait through the break and spend another 5 minutes with us?
I have until 5 minutes to 10.
All right, I'll put you on hold, and we'll have a short break, about 3 minutes in duration. We've got more coming up in just a short while with State Representative Christy Zito. She's joining us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. The show is Top Story with Bill Colley. Thank you for listening this morning. Just a quick note: if you're struggling though with your hearing, I've been recommending for about 18 months now, you need to get in touch with Dr. Christine Pickup, a doctor of audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert. Now, there are a lot of different healthcare options available for you when it comes to hearing. Why would you choose Mount Harrison Audiology? Well, you would do it because of compassion. Dr. Pickup and her staff pride themselves on caring for each individual and customized and personal treatment plans. Mount Harrison Audiology cares about your health goals and will work with you to provide the best care possible. Mount Harrison Audiology is available at 208-312-0957. That number once more, 312-0957. 934, State Representative Christy Zito is spending a few minutes with us this morning on Top Story on KLIX, and she represents, of course, Elmore County, along with all of Hawaii County and portions of Twin Falls County. Uh, I always have to make sure I say that. I looked up your district online last night, and it's not the biggest district in the state, but it certainly covers a lot of territory.
It really does. It's a big district, and the people of the district are just as diverse as the landscape. It's awesome.
I think we have a telephone caller looking to reach the representative. Caller, you're up next. You're on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to maybe bring up the fact that we're not real happy, I guess, me as a citizen of the state, about these dairymen and the Farm Bureau and the cattlemen trying to get it to where they can keep these illegal workers in our state. So that's all I got to say, and I just want to bring that up.
That's been a big issue, hasn't it, Representative?
It has. It has been a big issue, and being in agriculture, and you and I have had this conversation before years ago when you were in Delaware. It is a tough situation, and our labor laws and stuff. Sometimes I question. We've kind of made it so that youngsters sometimes can't get these jobs that we're looking at our migrant workers to do, and there has been a lot of talk about it this year. There's no question about it, and the if you're here legally and you've done what you're supposed to do, that's kind of what it's all about. Each one of us have ancestors who, most of us, there are those who are indigenous, but have ancestors who have come here and followed the law and done what they were supposed to do. And so on one level, I can see that it's unfair for those who have followed the law to have to compete with those who have not. So it's a sticky situation. It's a tough deal. And the law is the law, and it should be respected. And if we don't like the way it is, then we should change it. But, well, that's the current law. It should be followed.
We have another caller looking to join us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air with State Representative Christy Zito. Go ahead.
Uh, Hi.
Sure, go ahead. You're on the air.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to let Representative know that I support her in her capital doctrine efforts. I've called around to the other representatives that I've heard have been causing roadblocks and expressed my disdain for their efforts in doing so. And I just want her to know that there are those of us out here that are in support of her and that she's not by herself.
Well, there you go. An endorsement, if you will, for your position.
Well, and I appreciate that, Bill. That makes all the difference in the world because that's why I'm here. I'm here to represent those people and to represent their voice. And I love to get emails and phone calls and text messages, letting me know what you think and how you feel, and to get something like that voices support and that they're following it enough to know what is happening and what goes on. You can't ask for more than that. That's what the system's all about.
State Representative Christy Zito is joining us, and as you said, you have some additional time you could spend with us this morning, right?
Right. I
You've
forgot my watch this morning, so you'll have to let me know when it's 10 to 10.
Okay, we've got we're about 10 minutes away. We've got another short commercial break coming up. But if you can stick around, we can take a few more telephone calls on the other side of that. State Representative Christy Zito joining us this morning. She's got to run off to another meeting in about 10, 11 minutes. She's at the state capitol today in Boise, but we'll be available to take a few more of your telephone calls in just a few short minutes. I do want to note for those people who are tuning in this morning, I've had a lot of questions from people lately, actually for the last several months, about the total body transformation system, which has allowed me to drop nearly 70 pounds over the course of about 4 months. And people ask me about it all the time. They ask me about cost. First of all, the cost is about the same as the meals that you're going to be replacing with a meal replacement plan that is often healthier than the meals you were eating in the first place. It was developed by a company that's been in business now more than 20 years. It has an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau. It is backed up by a brilliant scientific team at some of the nation's leading research universities, proven to burn 6 times more fat and lose 8 times more weight than normal results from diet and exercise alone. The average participant will drop 22 pounds and lose 4 inches off their waist in just 60 days. And it also comes with an unconditional full money back guarantee. If you'd like to know more, you've got to call Don Chandler. He's at 208-731-3560 right here in Twin Falls. Don's number, 731-3560. And I'd like to add, Don's also a client himself. He dropped well over 50 pounds on the total body transformation system. More with State Representative Christy Zito coming up in just a short while. Our telephone number, if you'd like to reach her in the next segment of the program, 736-0300. Joining us in this segment of the program, at least for a few more minutes, State Representative Christy Zito. It's coming up on 9:43. 47. Wow, going to get a warm day today, maybe. Looking forward to that. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you as well. And Representative, we have some more telephone callers. You don't mind taking another call, do you?
No, not at all. That's perfect.
We'll go back to the telephones. The number, 736-0300. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air with State Representative Christy Zito. Go ahead.
Hello, Christy. I was wondering, where's the legislature headed on this illegal immigration thing? Is there a bill in the hopper that they're working on?
There has been. It's been really quiet about it lately, so I am not exactly sure what the status of that bill is. I'm not sure where it is in the process. I think it was sent to general orders or back to the maker for some work on it, and I really haven't heard anything about it since.
And there was the survey that was done where they were trying to get signatures from dairymen, and they were hoping for 10,000, and they may not have even gotten 3,000. So it may not be that there's that much support in the agricultural community as it originally been portrayed.
Right. So, that's something we're just kind of waiting on to hear where it goes and see what it is when it comes back up.
We have another caller looking to join us. Caller, you're on the air at 9:44 with State Representative Christy Zito. Go ahead.
Yes. One of the biggest problems people have with the illegals working on the dairies is when they hire them, then the guy at the dairy, the boss or the owner of them, will take and tell them how to go down and get off full food stamps, get medical assistance, housing assistance because they pay them cheap. If they that should be in the law. It says they don't. If you hire the guy, you don't get to give them the information and allow them to go do that.
Any comment?
Well, the only thing I can say is, if you feel strongly about that and you feel like the law should be changed that way, that's great. And you just need to get with your representative and work with them on drafting that kind of legislation and see what can happen.
I had a conversation with one of your colleagues from Filer a couple of weeks ago, Clark Kaufman, at the Lincoln Day banquet here in Twin Falls, and he was telling me that a lot of legislation that gets worked comes from the input from constituents who call them or write them. I suspect nothing changes much there in your office either.
Right. And that's the best place for legislation to come from, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes from the citizens that we represent, because then we know it's what you want. We know that that's how you want to see your government work, and that's exactly what it's all about. And so I really appreciate it when it comes that way.
In fact, that
We hear a lot from different government agencies, and a lot of times it's a change of statute or an update or something like that. But, when it comes from the constituents, from the people in our districts in the state, that's good. I like that.
you mentioned it earlier that the whole notion of the Castle Doctrine bill came from somebody approaching you. You didn't go in search of it. Somebody came to you and said, "We need a sponsor," and somebody to introduce this.
Exactly. I think there were like 10,000 names on the petition.
And so at that point, you put it on the floor, and all heck broke loose.
Well, I haven't even got it to the floor yet. I just brought it in and tried to get it a hearing in committee. So, yeah, there we are.
As a freshman or fresh woman, I guess to be politically correct, serving your first term, a lot of the pushback you get is simply because it almost seems to be. We saw this the other day with one of your colleagues. You're new here, and don't say much for the first couple of years. There's a lot of that's going on, right?
Well, you will hear that from time to time. You'll hear that often, but I think it's important to remember that whether you're the Speaker of the House or someone who's only been here one term or 10 or whatever, every person has one vote. And when you vote on the floor, your vote is just as valuable as anyone else's. And so even though occasionally you hear that, I think it's important to keep that in mind. And I don't believe that people who sent freshman legislators in this year, I don't believe they sent them with the idea that they should not participate and that their worth wasn't what those who have been here longer are. I think they sent those freshman legislators here saying, we wanted something different than what we had, and we had the ability to make that change at the voting box. And I think it's a wake-up call, and I think it's important that all of us listen to that and be conscious of what our constituents want. And I hate that word constituent, what our friends and our neighbors in our district want, those people that we represent. So, I don't like that concept. Yes, I have respect for the institutional memory that's here and the knowledge of those who have been here, and what has happened in the past with different legislation and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's not valuable. But at the same time, as I look forward to possibly being here in a few years, whether I am or not is up to the people who vote for me. And I don't live my life looking towards the next election. I'm trying to do well for them today. But I would think that it would be to my advantage to work with those freshman legislators who come in, to educate them and let them know what happens and help them be aware and help them pass their legislation that they've brought from their constituents, rather than to maintain this attitude of, we'll spend a couple of years, just being there rather than being an active participant.
I know you've got to get off to a session shortly, but good talking with you again, and I'm sure we'll be in touch before this thing gets wrapped up in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, Bill, I love being on your show. We've been friends for a long time. It was fun years ago, and it's still good today. And again, I am so grateful for the opportunity to represent the people of our district and to visit with you. And, email me, call me. If you can't get a hold of me, get a hold of my friend Bill Colley, and he'll get a hold of me. And if there's something you want to discuss on air, I'm always open to that, and it's always a welcome thing. So thank you very, very much.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day as much as you can. We'll talk soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Take care now. State Representative Christy Zito joining us. And as we mentioned, she represents Elmore, Owyhee, and parts of Twin Falls County on her way back to session this morning after she squeezed out some time in between a committee meeting and some other business going on in Boise today to spend a few minutes on the air with us. Bill Colley with you this morning, coming up on, call it 9:50. We're at 45, that temperature now sort of bouncing around between the mid to upper 40s. Who knows? Maybe we could have one of those big breakout days, unexpected days where I think 60 degrees might still be a few days off, but it would be nice. Just a quick mention, weather, of course, here on KLIX, brought to you by our good friends at Mountain Home Auto Ranch. That's explanatory, right? It's in Mountain Home. It's right off the highway. In fact, a very short trip, just to go up the highway, turn off the exit, and you're right there. Just a quick note, too, speaking of those folks who help keep this program on the air, I wanted to mention Western Visions, Inc. And we had the folks from Western Visions come by the studio last week. And a few weeks ago, I actually got to tour some of the work that is being done by Western Visions. That's taking place right now in Cassia County, but they have a presence now here in the Magic Valley. And this is a company that does high-end restorations, residential remodels, additions. They'll do a kitchen and bath addition, redo a kitchen and bath. They can do a whole home redesign and retrofit, utilizing layout and floor plan creativity, next generation lighting schemes, project components, and design element selections. Western Vision's concepts crush the average and place your project at the forefront of your community's renovation curve. Western Visions delivers comprehensive in-house structural, exterior, and interior design services, providing a level of service, attention to detail, and boy, did I ever see that the day I was touring the well, it's going to become a private lodge over in the Declo area, and they have an understanding of your needs and desires that is second to none. In fact, you'll be the partner throughout that renovation. You'd like to know more? Go to Western Visions. That's western-visions.com. Western-visions.com. It's coming up on 9:52. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. Quick comment about Christy in a larger sense. Christy Zito just joining us a moment ago from the Idaho State Legislature. She's considered to be, if you're in media and I guess even in politics, as part of a faction of constitutionalists, is how you would describe them in the Republican Party. However, I think sometimes we lose track of the fact that for the most part, her wing of the Republican Party on most issues votes with the rest of the Republican Party. So the differences sometimes are few. On most major issues, they're all together. And I bring that up because we had a caller the other day referenced U.S. Representative Jason Chaffetz from Utah and saying that he thought that Chaffetz may have lost his mind on a couple of issues. And I saw a photograph at a website last night of Jason Chaffetz talking to one of his best friends in the House, and that would be Idaho's Raul Labrador. And the two of them, there was a story that came from McClatchy News Service out of Washington, and the photo was being used to illustrate the story, but there were our two representatives from here in Idaho and Utah sitting side by side having a conference during a lull in action in the House of Representatives in Washington. They're on the opposite sides of this issue dealing with the new health care bill. We've got Chaffetz, who has decided he's going to go along with Paul Ryan and House leadership in promoting this change to Obamacare, which a lot of people say really isn't much of a change. Then on the flip side, you've got Raul Labrador, who is opposed to this change and says this bill isn't much different than what we had, so why bother? The thing is, I was watching the news conferences from both those groups yesterday on TV. I went home, and during the course of Shepard Smith, his program on Fox, and Neil Cavuto's program, they carried both news conferences from those two different groups of Republicans. And as I was watching those, I was reminded that there are some really good representatives on both sides of that argument. And for the most part, on most issues, they will work very well together. This morning, the Wall Street Journal had a piece, and the writers were pointing out that this is not a perfect law that has been put forth by Republicans. Slightly better than Obamacare. And the thinking is at the Wall Street Journal, the editorial board, the thinking is, all right, well, this is a step in the right direction, but this is not the final answer to a health care law in this country. So therefore, I think a lot of Republicans have decided to get on board with it, thinking it'll move us in a direction we can come back and revisit in another year, and then maybe in another year and move it from there. And then you've got Labrador and his wing, that is the Freedom Caucus, and they have enough votes to stop this. In other words, they can bring the Paul Ryan proposal, and it is not the president's proposal, although yesterday he said he would go along with it for now in hopes that it would be better than what we have. I think you're going to see it blocked, but it doesn't mean that Jason Chaffetz and those people who are voting with him in favor of it are bad guys and that they're completely unreliable, because for the most part, they're on the right team. Chaffetz was getting hammered in the media this week because he said people should choose between iPhones and health care. And the liberals jumped up and down. An iPhone in this day and age is a necessity, and people need an iPhone, and, you're taking it away from them, and they're deprived. Well, I didn't have an iPhone until fall of 2012. Not an iPhone, but a smartphone. I didn't need one. But then I took a job as a program director of a radio station, and all of a sudden I needed the iPhone or smartphone wherever I went because I always had to be checking up on various things. Funny, the company didn't cover the cost. That's how that works. But if you think about it, Barack Obama, by the way, said the same thing 3 years ago. So the liberals are beating Chaffetz up now for saying it. Fox unearthed the soundbite, and it's almost identical, where Barack Obama says the same thing. If you're a very biblically based person, you believe the world is around 6,000 years now, right? If you believe instead in the scientific evolutionary view, you believe that humanity, or at least humankind as we know it today, has been around a couple of 100,000 years. Either way you look at it, we've had human beings walking around for thousands of years, and they didn't have to have a handheld device. So yes, you can survive without a smartphone. You can survive without cable TV or dish TV. You can survive without the internet. A lot of people are still doing all of these things, and they're just fine. They don't have nearly as many distractions in their life. But this notion that you have to hammer Chaffetz for suggesting that you cut a few luxuries in your life, and yes, you can live without them, and this notion that you're entitled to all of these things is just completely out of control. Should also note all of those people who are criticizing Ben Carson for saying that slaves who came over here in the holds of ships were also immigrants. Well, technically they were. After getting beat up for days by mainstream media for that comment, guess who also said that a few years ago? Barack Hussein Obama. So Chaffetz and Ben Carson are in good company. If you liberals look at the fact that your own God, Barack Hussein Obama, said exactly the same things. Tomorrow morning, I hope to share with you, it's about 7 minutes long, an interview that one of my coworkers did yesterday with State Attorney General Lawrence Wasden. It's on tape, but it's his explanation of what happened in the Dietrich case, where there was a supposed assault. Originally, it was said to be a sexual assault. Then it was downgraded. Assault of a student in a locker room by some of his teammates last year. And if you have time tomorrow morning, we'll try to air that. And again, Attorney General Lawrence Wasden explaining what happened legally there. It's worthwhile to hear it. And I think it will answer a lot of questions people have. 9:58, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com. God willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back here tomorrow morning between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning.